Hey guys, welcome to today's Vehicle Visionary. Today, I'm at Holmes Volvo Cars here in Shreveport, Louisiana. And we're going to do a quick video comparing the 2021 Volvo XC40 T5 R-Design to the 2021 version of the Volvo XC40 Pure Electric, or the P8. We're going to talk a little bit about what the exterior and interior differences are. We'll share price differences. And the reason that I chose the T5 R-Design is because basically, as far as all of the safety features and the interior features for the most part, these two are identical. There are some changes that go beyond that, and we're going to talk about some of those. Some of those you can already see on your screen right now with the two models that are now behind me. But one of the things that might be of interest is, what does each model look like on the undercarriage? Let me show you that right now. Just for those who may wish to know, I thought I would do an undercarriage shot just to give the view of what each looks like. Of course, if you're wondering what area of the recharge is the battery, it basically runs from behind the front tire to right in front of the rear tire. Length and width, that's pretty much what it is. And it, of course, encompasses the entire underside of the car in that area, or should I say the Volvo XC40. Now, as far as the differences exterior-wise, well, it's pretty easy to see that the grills are quite different from one another when it comes to the T5 R-Design that has the more traditional grill. Of course, it's going to have the vents to allow air into the engine so that can run correctly. But since you don't have an engine in this model, a gas motor basically, when you open the hood on each, well, the differences are pretty clear. And that's one thing that actually does make a difference between the two. Let's talk a little bit about cargo space, as there are some differences in that area. Here you have the typical hood, basically, the engine bay or the engine area in the front of the T5 R-Design. But with the P8, this is called a frunk, or a front trunk. And as you can see on the screen, the differences are pretty clear. You've got an engine taking up an entire area right here, and then you have actually cargo space, a little bit of cargo space here in the front, and that's what's going to make the biggest difference between the numbers as far as cargo space goes between the two. And as far as other changes to the exterior that are going to allow you to know the difference between the two, if maybe you were walking up from the rear, well, other than some badging on the rear lift gates, well, the only other difference is on the recharge. It says recharge. Other than that, there are not a lot of differences. But if you happen to be like Monk, maybe Monk's watching this video, who knows? One thing that might be of note is the fact that on the Windows sticker, or what is called the Monroney label, there is one significant difference that I noticed. I thought it was rather interesting. For the T5 R-Design, you'll notice it says Audio in Technology. On the P8 it says Technology and Audio. Just something that I noticed that I thought might be of interest. Now let's talk about one of the most important aspects of each model. How do they perform? What are the numbers? All that good stuff. How far can you drive the recharge on a full charge? Well, I'm going to share that shortly. Here with the T5 R-Design, you have the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, 248 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. Both, of course, are all-wheel drive, but right here you have an 8-speed automatic transmission, and the estimated gas mileage comes in at 22 miles per gallon city and 30 miles per gallon out on the highway. And the all-wheel drive, of course, P8 all-electric, 402 horsepower, 486 pound-feet of torque. And when you drop the gas pedal to the floor on each model, the difference is clear, and I mean instantly clear, because you get all the torque as soon as you hit the pedal on this model. That's just one of the advantages of all electric. How far can you drive the P8 on one charge? 208 miles if you mind yourself as far as how fast you go. And I know for me that would be a little bit challenging because it is so much fun to drop the hammer and feel the intense acceleration. One thing that I haven't done is do a 0 to 60 test with the T5 R-Design. It's supposed to do 0 to 60 in 6.2 seconds. Now I did do a video with the P8 and its estimated 0 to 60 is 4.7 seconds, but I managed to do it in 4.4 seconds. That's pretty impressive. In fact, if you had either one of these pull up next to you at a red light and you didn't know what you were looking at, you'd probably be a little shocked if the driver of the P8 drops the hammer and just takes off like a bolt of lightning. It's quite impressive. I would like to see the look on people's faces because I've done that, well, a couple of times, give or take a few more. So let's talk a little bit more about cargo space and overall interior layout. There really isn't that big of a difference between the two vehicles that we're looking at today, although with the P8 you do have that additional cargo space that I talked about earlier because you have the frunk, and of course here with the T5 you have the lack thereof. But the interior space overall is basically the same. You can lay the rear seats flat. You have a pass-through, so that information and how you set it up and as far as the numbers go, well, basically it's the same. But there is one more exterior difference. And again, if you're that monk kind of person and you just really want everything to be identical as much as possible, well, there is a difference between the two that you're definitely going to take note of. The difference is found right here. On the P8, the charge port is located on the driver's side. Now, if you're going to put gas into your T5, that's going to take place on the passenger side. And as far as charging time, how long does it take? Well, of course, that's going to vary a little bit depending on how much charge you require with the P8. You can have a couple of different options installed at your house depending on what your situation is. The AC is going to take about 5 hours. The DC will take about 45 minutes to an hour. And of course, things will vary a little bit depending on how low the charge is. Well, let's hop into the driver's seat of each model and talk about the differences as far as what you will see on the interior. As far as overall comfort and interior space, well, the numbers are good on both models, but of course you're going to have a push button start here with the T5. As long as you have the remote with you, you can reach up and push that button right there. There are some differences between the dashboards on the two, but the biggest difference you're going to see as far as the dashboard itself goes all the way across is going to be with the center screen. You have the same screen basically that we've seen for a couple of years now with the XC40. That is until you hop into the XC40 Recharge, where you're going to find a completely updated infotainment system. And it has Google Assistant, so you're able to ask questions and all that kind of stuff. And I'll do that when we're out on the test drive shortly, just to show you some of the differences. But one of the biggest differences here, of course, both have a panoramic sunroof, but here with the T5, you've got just a button to open the shade or the sliding portion of the sunroof. On the P8, it's not a button. You actually just slide your finger back and forth. It's more of a trackpad or touchpad type system than anything else. And ultimately, there's not a lot of differences beyond that, but the biggest differences that are going to be noticed by anybody who drives or rides in each model is going to be how they ultimately do drive. Let's take it out on the road and see how each handles. As we begin our test drive with the T5, I just wanted to drive a little bit here on this rough patch of road just to give you an idea. You can hear the road noise, but at the same time, the ride still remains very smooth. I have to say I'm very impressed with that. I've driven several of these Volvo models in the past, so I already know that they're going to ride well and drive well. The steering wheel is comfortable. Everything is easy to get to. And while you don't have Google Assistant here in this particular model, of course you do have all of the typical features and functionality you would expect, such as navigation and things such as that. I want to get up here a little bit where we can do a quick acceleration test just to show basically the difference between the two. All right, we're just gonna leave from a stop here on the foot brake. I'm just gonna drop the hammer, and here we go. You can hear that 2-liter 4-cylinder working pretty hard. And accelerate through the corner here, not bad on the handling, a little bit of body roll. Not a high-performance vehicle, so it's not going to handle as such. But obviously, with the differences in horsepower between the T5 and the P8, well, it's going to be quite a different experience. But overall, with the T5, I must say, I'm impressed with all of its overall handling characteristics and ride quality. Acceleration is more than enough to take care of your daily needs if this is the model you so desire to purchase. Okay, we've changed vehicles, and obviously you're going to notice a little bit more road noise in the P8 because you don't have the sound of the engine to aid in drowning that out, but it's still not bad. But I'll tell you what, there are some great changes here, especially within the center screen, that you don't have with the T5. So let's just talk about Google Assistant first. You can ask a lot of different questions, and here's just one fun example. Hey Google, tell me a joke.
Why are stadiums so cool? Because they're full of fans.
Okay, now on the more practical side of things, hey Google, how much charge do I have remaining?
Your battery is at 74%.
So you can ask a lot of different questions, and obviously with the new interface here, there are a lot of very good changes. There's still a lot of the same functionality as far as how you control the air conditioner and the fan speed and all that kind of stuff. It's still basically here, but I really like what Google Assistant adds. And if you use navigation, one of the nice features there is the fact that depending on where you're going, it's going to let you know how much charge you will have remaining by the time you get there, or if you have enough to get to your destination without having to recharge along the way, if you can find a place to do so. And so those are some of the differences, but of course, the biggest difference is going to be the acceleration. And here is my favorite part. The acceleration is just so much fun. And I'll tell you what, you have a little bit tighter steering here. The steering wheel is a little more responsive to the touch than it was in the T5 that we looked at in the last scene of our test drive. And so that is helpful, I'll tell you what. But when you drop the hammer on this model, on the P8, you know you did. And so do your passengers if you have any. I have done a couple of videos with some people getting their reactions to how fast this is. And while it's nothing over the top in that respect, I think it really grabs people's attention. And there is a little bit of a difference. If you're out in the T5 with the turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder, just dropping the gas pedal to the floor in that model is a little bit of a different experience because you're going to have some turbo lag. If you ease into it, you actually get a little bit better acceleration. Here, it doesn't matter because, well, first of all, it's not a gas pedal, it's a power pedal. We'll call it that at least. And you can accelerate very, very quickly, and it is so much fun. I just have so much fun driving this P8. Oh my goodness, wow. So let's talk a little bit about price. We haven't discussed the differences in prices yet, and I'll show that on the screen right now. And as you'll notice, yeah, there are some differences. Tell me in the comments section, is it what you expected? Is it more? Is it less? Is it about what you thought it was? Tell me down there in the comments what you think, and I'm interested to know what your feedback is in that area. But obviously there are some differences, of course, as far as how far you can drive and different things like that. And one thing that is different here is when you don't have the sound of an engine, it just kind of makes a bit of a change to how things feel ultimately. And even though you get that kind of punch in the gut acceleration, a friend of mine who I took out for a ride in this P8, the very one we're riding in today, told me that the instant acceleration, that instant torque, was very much like launching in a Hellcat. And I have done both with him, in fact, so he would definitely know. And I'll tell you what, even though it doesn't have the sound, so it changes the experience overall as far as what it's like, it's still a lot of fun. When you have the sound of that V8, supercharged V8 in the Hellcat, well, obviously that makes a big difference. At least in my opinion, it does. And there you have it, the comparison between the T5 and the P8. If you're interested in purchasing one or the other, and maybe you were kind of on the fence trying to make a decision, tell me, did the video help you out? And tell me what you like most about each model. And if you were going to buy one, what would be the deciding factors in your decision-making process? Gotta say thanks to my friends here at Holmes Volvo Cars in Shreveport, Louisiana, and all of you for being kind enough to take the time to watch. As always, I appreciate your time. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you a vision for your next vehicle. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.